The Wembley Stadium, which is the largest sports venue in the UK, has a capacity of 90,000 seats. The World Cup final was hosted with a capacity of 80,000 seats, and Spotify Camp Nou at its peak has a capacity of about 100,000 seats. Now, imagine something bigger in the heart of Port Harcourt, Nigeria. 120,000 seats, not for football, not for concerts, not for politics, but for Sunday service. Right in a country where government universities struggle for funding, where public hospitals collapse under pressure, where entire state budgets can't deliver lasting infrastructure, a preacher is building what may become the largest church auditorium on planet Earth. The structure is called the Hand of God, and it is the flagship project of Salvation Ministries, led by David Ibiyeomie, with a reported cost of over $100 million. That's hundreds of billions of naira. A capacity larger than many national stadiums in Africa and beyond. And this is not in Lagos, not in Abuja, not backed by oil money or government bonds. It rises in Rivers State, Nigeria, funded primarily through a church. This isn't just a building, it's a statement. And statements like this don't happen by accident. Before the steel, before the cranes, before the promise of 120,000 seats, there is a young man with a message and a microphone. David Ibiyeomie. David Ibiyeomie was not born into a mega church empire. He wasn't handed a cathedral. He didn't begin with crowds. He began in the 1990s in Port Harcourt with a small fellowship and the conviction that prosperity was not just spiritual, it was visible. At the time, Nigerian Pentecostal movement was exploding. Faith was loud, auditoriums were growing, and a new theology was taking roots, one that preached dominion, wealth, and expansion. But Ibiyeomie was not just building alone. To understand his rise, you have to understand the lineage. He was mentored under Bishop David Oyedepo, founder of the Living Faith Church Worldwide, widely known as Winners Chapel, and that matters a lot because Winners Chapel is not just a church, it's an institution of scale. It built Faith Tabernacle, a 50,000 seat auditorium in Ottawa, once recognized as the largest church auditorium in the world. It turned construction into theology, size into proof, and expansion into doctrine. And in that ecosystem, growth is not accidental, it's engineered. So when Ibiyeomie started Salvation Ministries in 1997, he wasn't just starting a church, he was replicating a blueprint. Aggressive evangelism, structured giving systems, strong media presence, annual mega conferences like the Glory Reign that pulls thousands into one city. From a handful of members, Salvation Ministries grew into tens of thousands. Sunday after Sunday, the numbers swelled. And in the world of mega churches, numbers are momentum. Momentum becomes influence, and influence becomes capital. And by the 2010, Salvation Ministry was no longer a local church, it was a movement. And movements don't think small, they think territory, they think legacy, they think permanence. So when the announcement came that 120,000 seat auditorium will rise in Rivers State, it didn't come from nowhere, it came from decades of preparation. From mentorship under one of Africa's most powerful church builders, from a theology that equates expansion with evidence, from a system designed to scale. The hand of God was not the beginning, it was the next logical step, because titans don't build small, they build monuments. You see, it's easy to call it big, but it's harder to understand what that actually means, because 120,000 seat auditorium is not just a church, it's an engineering problem. When you build something that large, the first enemy isn't money, it's physics. How do you create a space that wide without turning it into a forest of pillars? Most stadiums solve this problem with columns, segmented tiers, and a complex truss system that interrupts sight lines. But the vision behind the hand of God wasn't just capacity, it was visibility. A single sweeping board, clear lines of sight, a roof span stretching across massive footprints, designed so thousands can see the altar without obstruction. When a roof covers tens of thousands of people in one uninterrupted span, you are talking about advanced truss engineering, the kind normally reserved for national stadium and international arenas. And then there is the architecture itself. They call it the 5 fingers of God. From above, the structure fans outward, 5 massive extensions radiating from a central core. It's symbolic, yes, a hand stretched out across the land. But symbols aside, the design multiplies complexity. 5 directional extension means 5 structural arms, 5 load parts, 5 coordinated expansions that must balance weight evenly. Each finger must connect seamlessly to the central structure without compromising stability. And remember, this isn't being built in Dubai, not in London, not in Beijing. It's rising in Port Harcourt, and that makes it extraordinary because whether you admire it, question it, or debate it, you cannot deny it. The hand of God is not just a sermon hall, it is structural statement. And statements at this scale requires more than faith, they require mastery of engineering. Now, let's pause the applause for a second, because in Nigeria, nothing that big escapes the question. A $100 million cathedral, 120,000 seats, rising in a country where millions live below the poverty line. So the debate begins. Critics ask a blunt question. In a nation battling unemployment, inflation, struggling public schools, and unfunded hospitals, is this really the best use of money? They argue that churches are tax-exempt institutions, that offerings come from the ordinary people, the resources poured into steel and concrete to build hospitals, fund scholarship, and create housing. Supporters argue that the funds are voluntary, non-government allocations, no public tax budgets. Mega churches are economic ecosystems. Large-scale construction means contractors, engineers, welders, suppliers, thousands of temporary and permanent jobs. Events like Glory Rain draw visitors from across Nigeria and beyond, filling hotels, transport systems, and restaurants. They argue that these cathedrals are not drains to the economy, they are engines. In the end, the hand of God is more than steel. It's more than 120,000 seats, more than a reported $100 million price tag, more than the architecture shaped like 5 fingers stretching into the sky. It's a symbol. To some, it represents proof that faith can build at the scale of government, that vision, when believed hard enough, can become concrete, that Nigeria is not just a nation of scarcity, but of ambition. And to others, it represents a question about priorities, about power, and about who benefits most from belief. Buildings like these do not just occupy land, they occupy attention. They redefine skylines, they shift perception. They tell the world something about who we are and what we value. And maybe that's the real story, not how it was built, but what it reveals. The hand of God is rising, and so is the debate rising with it, and history will decide what it ultimately represents. So I want to hear from you. Is this visionary leadership proof that private faith can achieve what public systems struggle to achieve, or is it a reflection of deeper imbalance? If you enjoy deep stories like this, like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you in the next one.